Good morning, good afternoon.
Yeah, I love that these podcasts we can have completely halfway across the world. So it is in fact my evening and it is your morning. So that is the joy of it, which is really fun doing it online. So we're going from the UK from me to New Zealand for Loretta. So we're linking in that way. But I want to talk to you all about fitness, health, women's fitness in general. And my first question is, how would you define a healthy lifestyle?
Mm. That's a pretty cool question for me because we have a really cool model of health in New Zealand called Te Whare Tapa Whā, which is the Maori model of health, and it actually starts with the land and the roots. And for me personally, choosing somewhere where I enjoy living is probably the number one thing for a healthy lifestyle. Um, and how it's defined in that health model is it's like the sense of belonging to a place and the things that make you feel connected to it. So that's anything from like the rock down the road, which to me is Mount Maunganui, and then the plants, the animals, and the people. So I've kind of found like if I pick a really cool place to live, then I'm more likely to be active in that area. And then you start meeting the people that are also doing the same things as you. And then that's even led into like when I go traveling. So, like, I lived in Tahoe for a while, and you walk around the aisle in the supermarket and you see half the people from Wanaka that you know. Or I was in El Salvador this year and I was just talking to this guy in the water and he knew all my friends from New Zealand. So, I feel like kind of like your vibe is your tribe where you live attracts the type of people you want to hang around. So to me, a healthy lifestyle is definitely starting off with somewhere solid that you want to live.
Yeah, exactly. If you really enjoy the place around you, then you're more likely to spend more time outside. If you are living near somewhere, say you love, surfing or you love mountain biking and you live near somewhere that you can do all of that, it just facilitates it. I think it takes a barrier out of it, which then it's not necessarily like a healthy lifestyle if you have to live in the gym and just eat everything green. I obviously there's a balance of things that's beneficial to a healthy lifestyle and performance, which we'll get into in a bit, but I think the basics of it is actually just that happiness level. If you're gonna optimize every level of training, but you're living a really stressed, unbalanced life, that's probably not gonna be defined as a general healthy lifestyle that's sustainable, that's consistent, that's actually enjoyable to live in. And I love how you said about the people as well, because there's so much community in sport and the healthy lifestyles that you choose, that you do meet those like-minded people, which actually help us to live a healthier, well-rounded life and actually enjoy it a lot more. I think enjoyment is something that's often missed in that healthy lifestyle approach. What do you think?
Oh, 100% it's the enjoyment for me. Like, I think people get it the wrong way around a lot. Like, people see me and they're like, oh, you're a gym trainer. And the whole reason I got into my career was because I actually was injured as a snowboarder. And I ended up in the gym doing all my rehabilitation. And the whole reason I gym now is so I can do the sports I want to do. So I can go for a swim around the mount, so I can run up the mount, so I can keep surfing until I'm 80. So like that's the whole point of my gym sessions. It's not because I love being a gym bro.
I know exactly. There is like that slight balance of I know that I can do so many push-ups and I enjoy that, but I also want to do it for the functional fitness. And I think that's such a cool way of doing it. As you said, you want to be able to surf when you're 80. You want to be able to ski when you're old. You want to be able to stand up out of the chair and actually go upstairs and, lift your grandkids and whatever. And all of these things that we kind of look at. But equally, it kind of goes through our lives as well. We want to be able to run. We want to have strength in our quads so that we can support our knees, so that we can support our core and everything like that. And it is that functional fitness that is actually it helps you live and it goes back to that healthy lifestyle. It has that fullness of life in general. And I want to talk to you about your coaching style because you have done a lot of work with Dr. Stacy Sims, who's I guess well known for kind of rejuvenating the women's fitness industry in terms of lifting and doing interval training. And that's very much the sessions, I guess, that you can then bring that to people that they can work with you. And it's a bit of a different style of coaching. It's not really the soft Pilates or, lifting light weights that a lot of women perhaps are used to. So I want to know a bit. Okay, why have you structured your programs like that? Why do you believe in it? Why should we believe in it? Talk me through the background.
Okay, so I think there's a bit of a misconception about Stacy and I and what we do. So both of us really love our zone two that everyone thinks she's anti. So we love going on hikes. We both ocean swim together. We belong to the swim club. Stacy goes on her like 3 hour bike rides on a Saturday. So it's not that we're anti it. It is more about the lifting heavy and the sprint interval training is your best bang for buck if you, one, hate the gym, and two, you really push for time and you're just like, what is going to benefit me the most? So that's why we push those styles of training. So it's like, okay, what's going to have the most benefit for me and as a woman with my body composition, my physiology, everything that I'm doing, and it's the lifting 3 to 5 reps and it's the sprint intervals. So just clear that up because I think a lot of people think that me and Stacey just like go and have a bunch of weights.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because I've seen you kind of talk about that. It's like we don't hate zone two stuff. It has its place. But when you're only doing that, then you miss out on a lot as well. And
Yes.
also, time wise, it takes a long time to do a lot of zone two stuff that's going to make a difference. Whereas you can go and you can like whack out an interval session in the time that you wouldn't even have warmed up on a zone two ride or whatever that is. So it is that balance of it, which I think is it's quite new and people are kind of coming round to it a bit. So what's the difference between men and women in that approach to training? How have you kind of structured your training in your coaching sessions around women's specific training? Why should women lift heavy?
Well, the first thing with the learn to lift is a lot of women are listening to Stacey and they're like, oh gosh, I've got to walk into the gym and I've got to just start lifting the heaviest possible thing. But they've got no background of how to get there or what they're meant to be doing. And it isn't about going straight into the gym and starting to lift the heaviest thing for 5 reps because you will end up injured. So the whole thing with the Learn to Lift was Stacey launched a program with Haley, and Haley's Learn to Lift program didn't have much personal guidance. So Stacey was like, well, there's just a bit of a gap there. Like, let's have something that has a little bit more one-on-one coaching, I guess. So what we're doing is we're starting with ligament and tendon health first. So ligaments and tendons, they take a while to remodel. So they take about 12 weeks to adapt. So even though you might feel like your muscles are recovering from workouts and stuff and that you're starting to be able to lift on this trajectory, like each week you're being able to like jump up 10 kilos, it's not necessarily good to like ramp up your weights that fast because the ligaments and tendons are lagging. So the way I've started the program is that we work on your ligament and tendon health because for perimenopausal women, the main injuries that we start seeing are like frozen shoulder, plantar fasciitis, tendinopathies. And so these are all connective tissue injuries. So we have to prepare a really, really solid foundation before we start working up to that 5 rep range. So my whole thing, a lot of people are unaware of that tendon health problem and they're just focusing on muscle strength. So I was like, okay, we'll start here. And then the other thing I've introduced is we're working with different tempos in the start. So we don't have to overload people with weight. So we're doing isometrics, we're doing eccentrics because that's a different way you can load the body with less weight. And then also unilateral work. So not everything is bilateral in that program. So obviously you're not going to be able to lift as much weight on one leg as you can on two. So it removes that barrier up to women that they think that they have to suddenly go in there and start, lifting 50, 60, 70 kilos off the ground. It's like, okay, we'll teach you how to load and we'll teach you how to load in different ways. And then we'll slowly start working on those heavy compound movements. So I think some of my ladies are on about week 12 now, and the barbell's just starting to come in there, and they're feeling quite confident with it. none of them have been like, oh, Loretta, I'm not ready for this. So it's, yeah, just a different approach of like how to train really.
I like that you saw that kind of the market gap, of people, hold on, we're kind of getting the message through that lifting is good. As you get older women, it really helps to retain a lot of muscle and you don't lose that. It'll help you long term. But then hold on, you're like, wait, we need to teach you how to do this. It's not that you need to run in and start lifting stuff, because obviously, you have the big injuries that can come from that. But it's interesting how you talk about the tendons, how they all need to adapt as well. And even if you feel like you can build up, your body kind of needs to catch up with you, because I guess when you start in the gym, you can see quite a lot of progression quite quickly, because
Yes.
suddenly your muscles will adapt, they'll grow a bit more, and you do see that and you feel a bit more encouraged, which is really positive, I guess. But there's a massive negative potential from injury and actually building up too quickly. So is that something that you've seen quite a lot, like having to kind of rein people back in and the motivation at the start is just going too hard?
Yeah, 100% massively. And then like the one of the biggest questions I'm getting asked is, am I progressing too slowly? And so like what I'm telling these ladies is, hey, this is for the rest of your life. Like, doesn't matter how slow we're progressing, because, you've got another 30, 40 years here. Like, let's pull back the reins a little bit. So, like, I'm not drill sergeant for them. I'm like here to make sure it's a lifestyle and that they're feeling comfortable with what they're doing. So I guess like the one difference with my program is these ladies had access to me, so that's why there's only limited numbers that I can take on, because they're able to upload videos. They're talking to me every day. Like, one of my ladies had a sore back, so I just completely changed her program to a back rehabilitation program, which I don't think you'd be getting if you're just buying a stock standard program or using AI to write your program for you.
Firstly, I love how you say that, you've got the rest of your life to train for this. Like, you don't need to jump to the big weights straight away. You are training for life. It's part of life. And I guess if you're training for an event, that's very different. But if you're training for this lifestyle thing, like, don't rush it. Do it properly. Do it sustainably. Do it in a way that you understand that your body can adapt. And you can be doing this for many, many years, rather than rocketing up, getting injured, and having to take time out. It's that kind of adding it in. And then you mentioned there the AI kind of
Yes.
coaching side, and I've seen you a little bit talk about that online. What is your opinion on AI coaching? I guess people can just type into AI, set me a training plan for 6 weeks. What's your thoughts on that and your experience, I guess, with people doing that?
I had a go at doing it the other week. It was interesting. I guess it's again like, so I just had to go like write me a program, very basic, um, and it was again giving me like 10 to 12 reps, blah blah blah. But then I tried doing it a lot more specifically. Like for myself, I was like, I'm someone that runs and swims. I want to work on calf health, blah blah blah. And then it actually gave me better specific exercises, which was good. And it was quite funny. A few of them did like quite a lot of them lined up with like what I would prescribe myself. And then I also asked it for some mobility. And yeah, like it definitely has ideas in there. And it's again, how you prompt it is what the response you're going to get. So um, I feel like if you've already got the knowledge in your head, it's not giving you anything that you don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because you know what questions to ask because you know how to set training. So you kind of need
Yeah.
to know what you're going to ask in order to set the training, to be able to put in that information, because it's quite an interesting one, because obviously you can have, a coach that you could contact that you pay X amount a month for, and you can say, the training program, like you just said, the lady hurt her back and you're able to change her whole program. Or you can get, PDF off the internet, which is just completely printed out. Or you can get something a little bit more tailored. There's an app that is quite big in the UK. I'm not sure if you'll have heard of it. It's called Runna, so RUNNA, and it's a running app. And it's kind of big with a lot of the influencers in London, and it's kind of skyrocketed in the UK. So I tried it for a little bit to like see what it was about, and it was okay, but it just had such a big volume. It had a big, it was the runs a week. It was just not tailored to how I was feeling or what I was doing or building up in that way. It kind of went from like 1 to 100
Mm.
immediately. And the first few weeks, you think, oh, this is kind of fun. And then you hit a bit of a wall. And when I haven't done a huge, I've always ran a bit, but I've never like done a huge amount of training for things. I've always been cycling. So I had a big background in sport and I knew what I was kind of looking at. But with running, it's quite different for a different endurance sport, especially with the possibility of getting injured for running, for instance. So going into it, it was quite an interesting experience because you're missing that level of, okay, what am I doing? What should I be doing? How much should I be doing? How fast should I be going? And you kind of have that 90%, maybe even like 80% of the coaching you can access online. But you just miss that little bit of personalization, which actually really helps, doesn't it?
Yeah, so one thing that we do in the high performance center, and I actually do it with my ladies as well, is we have wellness data at start. So there's a list of questions that the athlete needs to fill out when they come in. So one of them is like, how many hours of sleep did you get? What is your readiness to train? When was the last time you ate before training? And hydration. So
Again, all lifestyle things as well, the
yes,
healthy lifestyle.
so
Coming back to that, the basics.
they're going to be like the biggest predictors of how you're going to feel on the day. So if all that is rotten and I have a program set for you and you are like 100% can't do that, I'm going to be like, all right. And I'm going to tailor it to how you're feeling on the day. So same thing with my ladies online. They fill out their wellness data. I'll check it. And then like if stuff starts going like not out of their norm, I'll pick up on it. We'll have a conversation. We'll tweak it. I feel like if you're buying stock standard programs, that's the stuff that's missing. So the wellness, the ability to adapt to how the person is feeling, because we are not robots. We fluctuate massively, even within 24 hours. You can't expect people to just be following these like template programs. Like I have Olympians that I train and their program changes daily on how they're feeling. We're talking with full support teams. So that's the physio, the coach, the sports psych, the dietitian, and we're working like holistically to come up with good programs. So it's like, it's not just me that's making decisions, it's a team approach.
Yeah, because there's so many different parts to listening to your body. And also, it's easy to say listening to your body when you've been doing that for the past decade and you know what to it's kind of like typing into AI. When you know what to type in, you kind of know what you're looking for. But a lot of the people, like they don't know that. Or I think even if you do know that, you know the indicators for health, you know the indicators for my body's feeling tired. It's actually having that confidence to go with it. Sometimes that reassurance of a coach saying, no, 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 like you're good. You're not going to lose all of this just because you have a day off or 2 days off or anything like that. We're gonna change this round. And it's that expertise of just that reassurance level. And I guess a lot of the PTs I speak to on the podcast, a lot of the time it is that personal relationship that they have with people. How are you? Are you stressed? How's your mum doing? How's your friend doing? It's almost like a therapist side of the training as well as like the physical side is kind of secondary. Obviously you do it and that's what attracts people to you. But a lot of it is that personal side, which is why the personal relationship element is so important.
Well, I agree. My biggest thing is someone could have the exact same information as I have, but their delivery is going to be completely different. So, when people are like, oh, are you worried about sharing your programs with these people and them taking them and using them? I'm like, no, no, like, because the people work with me because of who I am, not necessarily because of the piece of paper or the app or whatever that I'm giving them. So, um, yeah, the connection you have with people is massive.
Exactly. It really is what makes a difference. And back to your training. So we kind of covered the weight training element of how you structure that and also why it's important for women. Another part, which is probably, I don't know, I feel like people would be scared about the weight training, but also when you say the word interval, people probably go, oh, okay, not so sure about that. Can you talk me through interval training How you structure your coaching program for that, and also why it's important. Why do you believe in it?
With my ladies that had never ever done it before, a few of them, it's so we work on the RPE system. So rate of perceived exertion is what we go off. We don't go off like your heart rate on your watch or anything because some of the tech isn't reliable when you're doing sprints. It's great for like resting heart rate and but not so good for your sprinting. So rate of perceived exertion is what we want to be measuring it on. And then some ladies walking up a hill is going to be an RPE of 8 or 9 for them when they're starting, or just, putting the bike on a hard resistance and trying to like go for 30 seconds is going to be a hard RPE for them. So again, it's not about scaring people away from the training. It's finding something that they find challenging, and then we're going to build on that. So again, it's about knowing who my athlete is, knowing who my audience is, and having a conversation with them. So I'm guessing you were asking because I had the sprint interval training on my website. So each one of those people that is doing the sprint interval training, I talk to them. I ask what equipment they have. I ask what they feel comfortable on. And then that's how we've started. So yeah, some of my ladies are walking. Other ladies are on an assault bike. Other ladies are, doing full on running sprints upstairs. So again, it's what they're comfortable on, and then learning themselves what their rate of perceived exertion is. Because sometimes when you're starting out, you don't even know how hard you can push yourself. So you're like, I've had a few ladies and they've come back and they've gone, I can do 20 reps of that. And I'm like, girl, you're definitely not trying hard enough if you can do 20 reps. I'm like, go away and really, really go for it. Like, get the cadence up on the bike as fast as you possibly can and then come back. And then again, they might come back and they're like, still too easy, still feel like I could do 10. I'm like, all right, so the first 4 reps, we're going to put the resistance right up. And your legs are going to be burning, 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 burning for that 30 seconds. And then the second 4, now we're going to do cadence and you're going to go as fast as possible. And then that's how they're starting to learn for themselves what their rate of perceived exertion is, what they need to put into their interval training to get the right response, because a lot of people had never done that. So like a lot of my ladies, a few of them are in their 70s now, but they've come from endurance backgrounds and they'd always just done long rides or done horse riding or something, and they've never had to push to that absolute level of like lactate in the muscle. So it's learning. It's learning. So again, just teaching them how to be able to read their bodies and push themselves.
Yeah, learning how to do it. And that's a huge part of it at the start as well. Actually knowing, how does this feel? Is it sustainable? And asking all of those right questions. And what are the benefits of that type of training?
So again, I'm sure you've heard Stacy. She's the absolute expert in this field on it. But when the estrogen is declining, you have to find other ways to form those stimuluses in the body that for what the estrogen was doing. So like being able to do that really fast muscle contraction and get that neural stimulus is basically what we're trying to do. When you start to age, you start to lose all your power. So this is a way to make sure we're getting fast muscle contraction. We're able to produce speed. The strength training is doing, again, another neural stimulus. So it's doing what your body needs to be able to physiologically do that the estrogen was doing.
How as women should our training approach change as we age? Through our 20s, through our 30s, through our 40s? Should it change as we get older in the decades? What's your view and your experience from that, working with different ages and ranges of women?
I work in a bit of a silo. So I work in a high performance center. So the biggest difference, I guess, from my perspective is we're doing very sports specific training at a younger age. We're following the long-term athlete development model. So I guess it's not really that different because we're going for long-term longevity. So it's about learning fundamental movement skills. And then it's about like training to train, and then training to perform, and then training to win, and then training for life is basically the long-term athlete development model. So
I
really, I
really
guess
like
it's
that. I really like those 4 stages. That's a really,
yeah.
like, neat thing. You know, you've done your performance and then you're training for life. You're continuing that. I like that.
Yeah, so I guess it's just a continuation of that long-term athlete development model, and it's just adapting it to where you're at, really. So, yeah, might not be so sport specific, but it's so you can have that last decade of your life living independently. So there's studies now that show that if you can do a farmer's carry for 60 seconds with 75% of your body weight, that you're more likely to be living independently in your last decade of life. So all my ladies, they're walking around with their dumbbells and their kettlebells, trying to get that 60 seconds.
Exactly. And I think that training with the percentage of body weight is actually a very interesting way of training, because I think often we can compare ourselves to our peers or our friends or our partners, or, you know, if a man and a woman is training together, the man is going to be lifting a lot heavier than women. But actually training with a percentage of body weight, is that something that you kind of advocate in how you know what to lift and how, you know, what weights you are? Because I remember when me and my husband were at the gym, and he's like, "Whoa, you're squatting your body weight." And I was like, "Hey, I am," because I'm thinking, "Oh man, like, how is he squatting all that?" And I'm like, I'm doing over my body weight now." And it's quite funny how that perception, once you realize, hold on, I'm actually a lot smaller than you, but I'm actually lifting a perceived weight that I'm actually quite pleased with. Is that how you approach it with your clients?
With athletes, it's like 1 rep max, and then generally with their sport, there is categories that they should be hitting for like international level, national level, regional level. With the ladies I'm working with, I was having a conversation with a lady on Instagram yesterday. She's a trainer, and she was asking me about oh, I'm working with a lady that's in her 60s, and I'm scared that like she just won't be able to squat that much for a 5 rep range. And I was like, find some lifts for her that are not necessarily a compound movement, maybe a leg extension or a hamstring curl, where she can really go to that failure and then focus on that. So I don't think for like things like leg extension and hamstring curl, we're looking at percentages of body weight, but it's really about like learning to push yourself to that failure level and not be afraid to fail and feel safe doing so. So like if you're working on a machine, you can safely fail a lift, and there's no consequences. So I don't want women to feel like they have to be in a cage with a barbell and be dumping it off their back to feel like they're getting the benefit. Like find a machine you feel comfortable with and really, really push it and work to your failure level, and then just go, oh, whoops, didn't get that one.
Exactly. Trial and error, exactly. And it's just part of a process. And there's no shame in just trying it out and seeing how much you can get. And then also the progression is something in the gym. I think it's so great to see the progression, because having been a bit more endurance focused previously in life, you don't often see the progressions, because some days is better than others. You don't have that massive increase. You kind of can stabilize quite a lot. Again, your fitness can shoot up and then you stabilize, and maybe it's like 1%, 2% better. Whereas in the gym, you can lift heavier. You can see like your body responds in that way. And it's just quite a fun place to be at. And I think there's a lot of stigma around the gym, especially like in the women's fitness space. There's quite a lot of fear about the gym. How do I approach it? It's just full of men. You know, I've got to squat these heavy weights and drop it off my back and roll it across the ground and everything, like just as you were saying, you know, you're stuck in the cage. Whereas actually it's really beneficial, as you say, and as your programs will advocate for. But actually there's a huge amount of joy to be found in it, even if you aren't wanting to be a big, you know, gym woman. there's just so many parts, not only for the like functional fitness that can help your lifestyle, help you live longer and have a better quality of life. But it feels like there's a huge give back that your body gives and gets from being at the gym and actually enjoying that, I think, which people don't necessarily realize.
Yeah, and again, I think it's about the environment. So, like, find a gym that you do enjoy going to. Find one that plays good music and has a few of your friends at it, so you can have a conversation and you can go for a coffee afterwards. And it's actually enjoyable because if it's always a grind and if it's always hard, you're going to try to avoid it. So, um, the high performance center, I've made that whole place my environment, so it's, good vibes when you walk in. We've all got our little t-shirts that all the
Mhm.
athletes wear, and it's just like it's a somewhere that they want to come and they want to represent and they feel so excited about. So yeah, again, just I guess that's why run clubs have taken off so much. It's because people get to go. It's non-intimidating. Their friends are there. So it's about like now trying to create those environments for women in gyms. So yeah, if you can find a gym buddy, I think it'll help heaps. And then also good playlists. So Stacey and I are drum and bass fiends. So we're always sharing our drum and bass playlists. So that's good.
Yeah, exactly. And do you and Stacey train together? Like, do you have that kind of, I guess having a gym buddy, it's something that then you can share your expertise and you can have that camaraderie, but also like slight accountability, I think.
Yeah, so I guess it's like anything in life, who you train with is gonna like lift you up to their level or take you down to their level. So I don't train too much with Stacey, but she did, without telling me, enter me in a high rocks competition with her. So we do have that coming up in February. Um
What
so
does that
it's
say that she didn't tell you? It sounds-
was like, guess what? We're doing high rocks. I was like, are we? I was like, I don't even know what it is, but I think it's like CrossFit. I've looked at it now and I've realized there's quite a lot of running in there. So
Yeah, I think you'll be fine.
yeah. So yeah, we've done a couple of trainings like that together, but generally when Stacey and I are hanging out, we're more like going for a walk up the mount, we're swimming around the mount, we're having coffee, and then we kind of do our weight training separately. So Stacey's got a pretty kitted out home gym, and then she belongs to a gym down the road, whereas I kind of just stick to my high performance center. But
And when you and Stacey, who both have a huge amount of experience in women's fitness, obviously Stacey has done a lot of like research in women's fitness scene and the whole like background of it. And then you as an athlete have a huge amount of knowledge and experience of women's fitness and working with so many athletes as well. What are your conversations? What are you thinking, okay, we need to aim for this. What are you like where do you see a gap? Do you know what I mean? Like, what are the big things that you're kind of wrestling with in the when you observe women's fitness? What should we be listening to?
ooh, so I've actually been working for Stacey for a couple of years now. So I run like her online membership base, and I write like weekly articles on there. So it can be any topic. So recently I wrote one on like estrogen and progesterone causing like a melasma in your skin. So a lot of women don't understand why they're getting all those big like pigmentation spots and stuff, and it's actually your hormones. So it's about like finding topics that women are interested in that they might not necessarily know why something's happening, because you see that you walk past all those skincare clinics and they're all advertising to have like laser to remove melasma, but you're like, what actually causes it? So it's like topics like that, um, just about like how, yes, we talk about strength training, but don't forget about you need mobility and stability. And yeah, so it's just I guess we're always trying to think about what's topical, what's the information that women want to know that they might not have access to or don't know where to look, because there is a lot of information out there. So it's about finding credible sources from peer-reviewed journals and getting that information. So a big one for my athletes that I've got Stacy to talk to them about is birth control, because that is something that a lot of them are starting to think about. And the GP gives you very standard things, bog standard for everyone. Come in, here's the pill. It's not necessarily at the lowest effective dose. It's just at a standard dose. So about like, what repercussions does this have for me as an athlete? How will it affect me as an athlete? Do I actually need to be on this one? What's the alternative options if I don't want to be taking a pill every day? So yeah, like to me, that was probably the biggest question that is not being answered in my industry in the high performance sport world, because those girls are all in their reproductive years and they want to be dating and they want to be safe.
Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned that there's so much information out there, and we've almost gone from there being no information or very limited information that we can find to there being so much information which we don't know where that's come from or who's saying it or if it's just a trend or if an influencer has maybe said it, which there's lots of amazing fitness influencers out there, but there's a lot who don't actually they haven't done the research, they haven't done, the in-depth studies on it. So you don't know where that's come from. And everyone's different and everyone's body will respond differently. But it's just knowing, I guess, the information where to look for it and who's written it, who's done it. Is it done specifically for women or is it done on a study of mixed genders and trying to, actually get the reliable information that we can apply to us and to our bodies. And having that is quite difficult to find. So yeah, it's definitely a good place to look for you guys presenting the information, the topical information that comes up as well. But often maybe, people don't really talk about that, birth control, periods, menopause, perimenopause, all of the things that everybody is aware of, but sometimes it's not really spoken about. So it kind of goes through in the dark and then you end up with people not handling it perhaps in the right way when they could actually have the information if they're equipped with it. So very interesting that those are the topics that you guys are trying to approach and try and combat as well, because it's very, very prevalent.
Yeah, and I think like the birth control thing is such a massive thing. And I was talking to one of my triathletes in the gym and I asked her, what are you taking? And she said like the pill, which is a combination pill. And I was like, did you know that the studies have actually proved that that reduces your VO2 max? And that's like part of your sport is to have a really good VO2 max. And she was like, oh no. So then she's gone away, spoken to her doctor, and then found a better option for her as an athlete. So yeah, it's about having those conversations. And again, if you're just buying a program or you're just typing it into AI, you're probably not going to find that out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very good reason, an example there to actually look into it a bit more and speak to someone as well who has the expertise. And speaking of expertise, what is your view on creatine? Like, why should people take it? Someone's listening to this and they've never actually heard of it. But I want to ask you specifically, in your experience, how do you make creatine not taste so bad?
Can you taste it? I can taste it.
I can taste it. When I put it in my protein shake,
You
I
put it in more protein.
yeah. I don't know, have you
Yeah,
used
I
it?
just in water. I put it like I take a Barocca in the morning. You know the fizzy Barocca. Yeah,
Oh,
I just put it in my Barocca
do you take it at the start of the day, like before training? Interesting.
in the morning. Like put it in a big like pint glass, and then I've got my hydration and my multivit and my
And you're
Cure.
gooping.
Yeah,
Well, way
I
to
can't
go.
taste
Yeah.
it.
Interesting. Okay, there we go. I'm going to try that. I'm going to have it in the morning. So, taste aside, why should people have creatine? What's the benefits of creatine?
Well, from an athlete perspective, it's meant to help with heavy lifts and sprinting. So when we're talking about women and Stacy's recommendations. We want to lift heavy and we want to sprint. So there's a good reason to take it to start with. So it works on the ATP system. So basically it's how your muscles fire. And then it helps with recovery. It doesn't just help with the ATP system. So it works on your brain. Like I'm probably the wrong person to ask about expert advice on it, but it is the most studied supplement in the world. So the research that's come out, there's not much bad about it, and there's a lot that's good about it. So from a personal perspective, I was always in the room where they're telling big rugby boys to take it. And I was working with women's rugby at the time. And I was like, why are they not telling the girls to take it? If all these guys are meant to be taking it and it makes them so much better, why aren't we taking it? So I didn't tell the girls to take it straight away. I decided to take it myself. I was like, I'm going to take it for 6 months. And if I feel fine and there's no like downsides, then yeah, I'll tell the girls that I take it and I trust in it and I believe in it. So I did that. And there's always that rumor that you're going to put on weight. I lost 4 kilos when I started taking creatine and I didn't change anything. And I think that probably was because I could hit my workouts with better intensities. I was recovering better and therefore my training was just better. So I didn't see any downside to it. And so now everyone, I'm like, take creatine.
That's super interesting. Yeah, the vast like change that you could actually see. So there we go.
A lot of brands, the scoop that comes in their containers is way over the recommended daily dose. So we're only meant to be having 3 to 5 grams. And those scoops that are coming in, some of them are like 10-gram scoops. So if you're wondering why you had GI distress, it's probably because you're taking like 2 to 3 times the amount that you're meant to be taking. So get yourself a little 3 to 5 gram scoop and make sure that you're taking the right amount, because that was one thing I noticed when I told my mum to take it. She was just using the one out of the Musashi container and it was way too big. So just be aware of dosages for all supplements, because a lot of products now, they're creeping into multiple products. There's electrolytes and everything. Yeah, so just be careful about dosage.
So if someone's listening to this, they aren't a performance athlete, but they really want to have a healthy lifestyle. They just want to keep fit. They want to do all of the things that you've been talking about, live a good quality lifestyle. They want to be strong. They want to be fit. They want to be healthy. What would you recommend the fundamental layout for a good balanced training plan in their week? What should they be including? What frequency? How should they divide it?
To me, it would be lifting 2 times a week, 3 if you can and you like it, but minimum of 2. Having something fun every day, so an active, fun activity. Um, Doing something once a week that's active with your friends. Um, and then making sure that you're preparing meals that you actually enjoy that are full of delicious, healthy foods. So I was talking to my mum about this a couple of years ago. I was like anti buying the blueberries and stuff because they're so expensive. But to me, when I go to the supermarket and I get blueberries and strawberries and nectarines, like they're so much better than candy to me. So I would rather spend $6 and get a punnet of giant blueberries. So it's about, not treating yourself. Find the treats that you love that are actually healthy. So yeah, I guess that would be my
Yeah,
healthy lifestyle tips.
it's a perspective thing though, isn't it? It's actually, hold on, just because I'm having dessert doesn't mean I need to have a pile of sugar when I actually really enjoy some fruit. And I've treated myself to this nice fruit, not just, an apple or whatever, like something that you really like. So it is that perspective and that's you and how you're looking at it. So interesting tips for a healthy lifestyle. Because I mean, even you just reeled off there, lifestyle's a wholesale thing. It's not just when you're lifting and when you're running and when you're doing all of these things, which are really important for a plan, but it's what you're eating. If you're seeing people, I mean, the first thing I asked you was, a healthy lifestyle, and you said environment.
Mm.
You didn't say, well, it depends on da 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 da. Da. It's environment. It's a whole lifestyle because it's training for life. You're going back to that. It's not training just for performance. If you are someone who just wants to maybe live a healthier lifestyle, it's not that you have to be a performance athlete. But even athletes, they look at the wholesale of life, not just the training. So many different parts of it. So really interesting that you said that.
Yeah, I will tell you one thing. Athletes are probably a bit more on the unhealthy side. Like you look at so like the way they train, probably their injuries. So they're probably an actual life example of a to whare tapa whā model. They're probably a little bit more on the physical wall than the other ones.
Yeah, I guess I was kind of thinking of the diet would be brought into it, but there are extremities for everything, and maybe that's not the best example to use.
Yeah, no, I think
Oh,
it's good to have clear goals is a massive part of it. So, like, what do you actually want out of life? To me, for my thing, it's be awesome at 80 and train through my week so I can do everything I want to do on the weekend. So I can get up and I can go for my run, and then the surf's good. I've got enough energy to go for a surf, and then my mates invite me wakeboarding. I can also go do that. And then someone wants to go for a bike ride. I'm like, yeah, okay, I've done 3 things, but I've still got enough energy to go hang out with my friends. So, yeah, I train, make sure my week training and food sets me up to do everything I want to in my free time.
amazing. Be awesome at 80. I love that. And if people want to follow you online, Loretta, and keep up to date with what you're doing, but maybe work with you as well, where should they go?
My website is lorettaloveslifting.com and my Instagram is Loretta Loves Lifting.
Wonderful. I will link those below so people can check that out as well and give you a follow, keep up to date with what you are doing. And thank you so much, Loretta, for coming on today and chatting me through all of these things, all of the ways that you work and your view on fitness as well. It's just been a really interesting conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for staying up late.